Hello, and welcome to another animation of Overwatch video. My name is Kyle, and I'm an animator on the Heroes team. Today, I wanted to take a bit of a deep dive on two particular parts of our newest support hero, Wuyang. First, we'll talk about his primary fire and what makes it different from how other heroes fire their weapons. And second, we'll talk about his mobility ability, Rushing Torrent. Both of these abilities are fairly simple in their function, but in order to make sure the character of Wuyang came through, we did a lot to make these special. So let's dig into the animation of Wuyang. For a lot of our heroes, their primary fire functions in a very straightforward way. The character exists in their idle pose, ready to fire at a moment's notice. Their firing animations generally work in and out of this pose to keep things feeling nice and responsive. One of the unique things about Wuyang's firing right from the start is his ability to control the projectile as it travels. This is in addition to his more standard tap and fire, like most of our heroes, as well as a rapid fire he can do. This presents an interesting challenge where there are multiple ways that he can fire, but we want them all to feel just as responsive. On top of this, Wuyang's idle isn't in a firing pose to start with, as we want his movements to show him manipulating and sending the water forward, so there's a lot to unpack here. The first thing we started with was trying to find out how we would do one quick tap fire, and work outwards from there. We tried a lot of different hand poses and staff designs here to see what felt right for the character. A lot of our early exploration felt a little too magical, almost like he was casting spells, and that wasn't the direction we wanted to go down for him. We shifted away from soft movements with big hand poses to more rapid motions with tighter and smaller posing. This helps get across that he's a very precise and focused hero in combat. Once we were happy with this tap fire, we started to work on the controlled state of the projectile. On top of that first animation we did, we can now add on the different blend spaces for the hand so that when you're moving the camera around, the hand has some arcs and delays to it to feel like he's actively controlling something. If we kept it one-to-one with the camera, you would miss that connection. We also added some poses that slowly change over time as you control the orb, so Wuyang isn't holding in the exact same position the whole time. These are minor changes in the pose, but enough to get a feeling of progression as the projectile travels. After this, we worked on his rapid fires. We don't want Wuyang to move all the way back to idle every time you press the fire button, because it would be a lot of busy motion on the screen. We decided to actually keep his hand lingering out after he fires, so that he's already in the pose ready to fire another one quickly if needed. If the player doesn't continue to fire, he will return to the idle after some time. An extra bonus for this is that in 3P, it's much easier to read that Wuyang is pointing towards you with a hand held out, rather than constantly moving it back and forth as he moves around the battlefield. We then added some slight differences to the firing, so you aren't seeing the same animation repeatedly. We vary up where the hand is coming from and the pose on the fingers, so you feel a small little sequence play out when you fired rapidly. This isn't something you can really see as you play, but it's something you can feel. Once we're happy with how it's looking, we continue to refine the animation and test against all kinds of situations to make sure the animations hold up. Firing while running, surfing, looking different directions, anything where the states may not hold up. Getting his or any hero's primary fire feeling good is one of the most important parts of a character in the game, and we landed in a great spot for Wuyang. Rushing Torrent is, on the surface, a very simple ability. Move faster, jump higher. Wuyang already has a run and a jump, and we can amplify those to fit the speed and height pretty easily. However, we had an idea early in production that we couldn't quite let go of though. What if Wuyang rode a wave of water for this ability? He can manipulate water to whatever he needs, so why not use it to amp up his speed and his height? Our very first prototype of this was using a lot of existing assets to prove out the idea. Here we used early Wuyang, aka Moira, and some simple geo and effects from Mei. We threw on some quick poses and began playtesting. Even in this rudimentary state, it added so much to the character to be riding on water for this ability. You can also see some of the crazy height Wuyang used to have early on. It was busted, but it was sure fun. Deciding to go this route adds a lot more animations. We essentially need an entirely different state Wuyang can be in at any time. New idle, new locomotion, new jumps, and all of this needs to work with all of his other animations. It was a lot to take on, but again, we really felt like it was worth the extra time. We started doing a lot more rapid testing with poses and movements to try and find something in character. His movement was fairly understandable to do. The jump is where things get tricky. What happens to this pool of water when he jumps? Does he jump with it? Does he jump off it? Does it disappear and come back? There were a lot of questions to answer, so again, we tried to iterate really rapidly. Our first test is having the water travel with Aqua as he jumps. We had a rigged and animatable object for us to control and move along with him. This had some legs, but it did come off a little bit strange. How was the water moving like this? Was he lifting it up? Is the water pushing him up? It started to become a bit overly complicated for a jump, so we decided to walk it back and iterate a bit more with concept. After seeing the first iteration and the awesome posing ideas we got it into game pretty quick. This version felt much more dynamic. You really get a sense of Wuyang pushing himself off of the water, and he hits such an awesome pose in the air. Finding this took time, but the result is a very smooth transition between the ground and the air. Similar to the primary fire, now that we had it all in, all we have to do is test it against all the other things he can do. We knew we would need this functionality, so we built our other animations to account for this. So a lot of things like his primary fire and healing work quite well already. The result is we now have two distinct states for Wuyang to be in, his base loco and his surf loco. This ability was a big lift from all departments, but we got something very unique and we're all pretty proud of it. There are, of course, a lot more animations that help make Wuyang who he is. If you found this deep dive interesting and want to hear more about his kit, let me know in the comments. And again, a massive thank you to the Wuyang team and all of Team 4 for making this work possible. Now go out there and play some Wuyang.